during the time of the printing of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So 1975, after edit, a lot of devotees who were working on the translation, galley, paste up, set up, they had access to the books as they were being translated and set for printing before anyone else. So these devotees had come together and decided that it would be a good idea to concentrate on the intimate aspects of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the very intimate aspects. Everyone who's read Chaitanya Charitamrita knows. And so there was so one devotee, Pradyumna, Prabhupada called him Panditji. He was here in Vrindavan, very sweet devotee, and his good wife and small son. So there was, he came into Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada had just started to take prasadam. He had just lifted one piece of fruit to his mouth, and Pradyumna whispered in his ear, and Prabhupada immediately stopped. The fruit never even made it into his mouth. He put it down on his plate and his fist hit the table. I said, bring them to me. So what Pradyumna had told him was that there are some devotees, they'd formed something called a Gopi Bhava Club. Has everyone heard this? Gopi Bhava Club? And they were thinking this is a very innocent thing, we're just reading Prabhupada's books. But of course, again, the intimate aspects. So when Prabhupada called them all in, he began to inquire why they have done this. And they were making excuses. Prabhupada, we're just reading these books. We're just reading your books. We're not doing anything. We're not outside. We're not. So just your books. Because that had also been a bit of a problem. Devotees reading other literature. So once established in Vrindavan, devotees would go here, go there. People would say, here, you can read this, you can read that. So Prabhupada said that you are not qualified. You're not qualified. But now he's saying, but Prabhupada, it's in your books. So the example he gave was very correct. He said, just like in a pharmacy, there is so much medicine. All the shelves are filled with medicine. He says, but you do not know which medicine is appropriate for your disease, unless prescribed by an expert physician. He said, so similarly, you're just reading these things. You know, but are you qualified? And then Prabhupada again took the opportunity. Prabhupada, when he was forceful, he wasn't shy. His anger is famous when necessary. And he slammed the table. And he said, first deserve, then desire. First deserve, then desire. So you want to know all about these intimate pastimes of Krishna, but what have you done for purification? So sometimes we neglect. So like this whole chapter is about performing penance, austerity, charity. So what is that in our society? What does that mean? What penance do we do? We rise early, we take baths, we attend Mangal Arati, we chant our rounds, and then what? We do service. This is also austerity. So austerity to control the mind, to not go to sleep, to not go disappear someplace and hide from the temple commander. You know? Prabhupada gave us another instruction like that in Mayapur, 1976, that these temples should not become hotels for lazy and crazy fellows. Have you heard that? Everyone's heard that? He said one should be engaged 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. He said, otherwise the society will be spoiled. He said, don't let these people in. So he was very clear. There's nothing to misunderstand about that. But sometimes the tendency is we think we're smarter. And we make adjustments. And then those adjustments create havoc. Because we're not proper. We cannot adjust things according to time and circumstances the way he did. So we have to be very careful and execute our duty. And someone may be thinking, well, what is my duty? Well, we have a chain of command. We have our GBC. First, we have Srila Prabhupada's books and all of his instructions and his thousands of lectures, his compendium of knowledge. Everything is there. And one listens to that, there is no absence of knowledge or information. But the tendency is not to listen carefully. But it should be a routine part of one's daily activities. Not that I've heard Bhagavatam class once, I can't hear it again. No. One can hear Prabhupada's classes all day long. When I was, after just joining the temple, we used to, another austerity, washing pots for Krishna. Has everyone here washed pots for Krishna? Everyone? Everyone? Yeah. If you haven't washed pots for Krishna, you're missing something. So make sure you take every opportunity. Very humbling, very purifying. Why? Why is it purifying? Because it takes great determination to conquer the mind, to think that, no. Sometimes the pots, you walk in this pot room and the pots are stacked up, you know, a story high. They're 10 feet high in some big kitchens. And you think, how will it get done? But everything starts with the first pot. So that has to be done. So therefore, if the person who does it, he gets the mercy. He gets the purification. Cheta darpanam marjanam bhava mahadevagni nirvapanam. He gets the dust cleansed from the mirror of his heart. And so I was washing, and we had, in those days, every second person who joined the temple was a musician. So we had no shortage of musical instruments. The basement was stacked with amplifiers from floor to ceiling. And so we would use the amplifiers in festivals and that. And one devotee, enterprising devotee, he brought one big amplifier up to the pot room. And we plugged these little cassette tape recorders in. And then we had the cassette tapes, Prabhupada's lectures, and we would just blast them all the time while we were washing the pots. And you'd be surprised how easy it is to concentrate on Prabhupada's voice and to hear clearly while you're washing these pots. It's a magic formula. I recommend everyone try it. You get special mercy. Somehow or other, Prabhupada's voice enters deep into your heart. So there's instructions like those, instructions to the Gopi Bhava Club, they're with us forever. First deserve, then desire. And we deserve, how do we deserve? By performing some menial service, like Jayananda, very senior devotee. Never hesitated to do the most menial service. He would call me and say, we're going to do the trash run. Trash run was not a very nice thing. You know, the trash would be stacked up, and then Sunday night, so basically once a week, Sunday night after the feast, we used to have a system. We used to put all the sacred throw out. I don't know what they call it nowadays. Now it's just called garbage. Everything that was cooked for the deities, everything, all the garbage would go into bins, airtight sealed. And then at the end of the week, we would take them we had a panel van. And we would go down to the river underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. And we would carefully release the contents from the barrel into the river. Because this is sacred Torah. You empty it into a river. Not that you throw it on the byway. This is Krishna. We had very good training in those days to treat everything with the utmost respect. Nothing was wasted. You never saw a picture of Krishna lying. The other day I saw a calendar, a whole calendar filled with Krishna's pictures and Prabhupada's pictures lying on the floor in the dust. Somebody just swept it into a corner. One time on one of those trips, I wasn't with Jayananda that time. I was with another devotee. And we used to go to the same spot every time because it was convenient. You back right up to the old pier, open up the back of the truck, tip the containers and slice the plastic bags, and then slide the whole bag out into the water and go splash. And because we would slice the bag, it would sink. Otherwise, you have a bunch of floating bags. So one time, unbeknownst to us, a police car had rolled up behind us. And all of a sudden we heard, "Don't move." So we froze. And the policeman came and said, "What are you doing?" So what do you say? I says, we're disposing of sacred remnants from our temple. And he just looked at us. "What's in the barrels?" And I said, "More sacred remnants." Because he was watching these bags floating, because some of them hadn't sunk yet. And I explained to him that it's trash, but because it's not trash, I said, in our religion, things which are prepared for the deity, things which are prepared for the Lord, they're sacred. But leftovers which cannot be eaten have to be disposed of in a river. So the cop is just standing there, and who knows what's going through his mind. But all I know is there's two guys with guns, very suspicious. And he told us, he said, "This is where people come to dump bodies." And he goes, in that section of Brooklyn, there's a lot of mafia. He said, "This is where the mafia comes to dump their bodies." And we're dumping plastic bags. So he wanted to see what was in one of the barrels. So I cautioned him. I said, the food is composted. It's become a little bit ripe. But he had to see for himself. So I kind of I showed him. I untied the bag, and he put his head down there and he went, "Oh." He came back and he said, "Oh." He said, "Close it up, get in the truck, and go." He said, "Don't let me find you again." So we had to drive around for half an hour to find another place to finish our duty. Our duty was to dump the sacred Torah. So we couldn't go back to the temple without doing that. We drove around for quite some time, actually. Not easy to find a secluded place where you can dump bodies or trash bags filled with sacred Torah. So such things are there. And Jayananda never hesitated to do this type of service. And he showed us by example. Yad charati shrestas. That he could do anything, and therefore we had no problem following in his footsteps. We never thought that I've been in the movement for 5 years or 10 years or this or that. I don't do this stuff. That's for the new devotees. No. That was not part of the training. And Prabhupada also embodied that principle. Very short aphorism. Do the needful. Do the needful. Has everyone heard that? No. Do the needful. Everyone's heard that. So what does that mean? What does do the needful mean? Sometimes you're the only person. That means you do the needful. Something's not right, you correct it. It's not that the society is broken up into 10,000 small parts and each of us is our own little orbit, satellite. No, we're all one. So if the picture's lying in the dustbin, you pick it up and you put it. You find out where it should go. Where's the sacred Torah? We used to have a fire every once in a while. And all the sacred pictures would be disposed of in that way. They weren't put in the river. You just burn them. So you have to know what should be done, what to do, what not to do. So all these things add up to duty. So if you don't know what your duty is, then how can you do it? So therefore, Krishna explained in 685 shlo, whatever it is, to get to this point. And this is my opinion, that you should perform your duty. So hopefully it won't take us a battle of Kurukshetra to come to this conclusion. We have the benefit of hearing from Srila Prabhupada in his lectures, from his books. And the immediate symptom of one who is probably reading Prabhupada's books is that he wants to engage in devotional service. He's enlivened, he's enthusiastic, he wants to do something for Prabhupada. He wants to do something for Krishna, for the society. He doesn't want to just sit around. You know, this is not our life. We have to be engaged. Otherwise it is just another term Prabhupada used, joint mess. In India, people know what that means, joint mess. Joint mess means common eating. Doesn't mean a big place that's a mess. Joint mess means a common eating. Like in the military, we have a joint mess for the enlisted, another joint mess for the non-commissioned, another joint mess for the officer. So it's not just like that. We're separated and segregated. Everyone has duty. And if he doesn't know what it is, he should make his connection firm with his authority and find out, what should I do? What can be done? And in the absence of that, then he should go pick up the trash all around the compound. There's another thing that you should do in the military. There was no such thing as idle hands. There's nothing to do. They would order you to police the grounds. Police the grounds means to pick up every single piece of trash, cigarette butt, whatever it was. Because they didn't want you just sitting around, you know, listening to your mind. So we should take that. It's a good example. Prabhupada often compared us to. And we see, who's Arjuna? Leader of a great army. Do you think there were any soldiers in that army who were sitting on the sidelines? Was anyone just sitting there without engagement? No. It's not possible. So many, 640 million people, 18 days. Everyone was engaged. So, and that was another thing Prabhupada told us on Henry Street. Prabhupada said, how long will it take for this Krishna conscious movement to have an impact in the world? And Prabhupada said, if you were sincere, you could do it in 18 days. He said, if you were sincere, conquer the world in 18 days. So he wasn't trying to discourage us, but he was giving us some understanding that, look what he did. One person, 70 years old, coming alone to America. And in 1 year, basically, he set in motion the process by which this world will be conquered. It's just a matter of time. Everyone will come to Krishna consciousness. If not now, we know that as Kali Yuga progresses, there will be more facility, not less, more facility for preaching Krishna consciousness. People are always worried, oh, the climate this and the population this, and Prabhupada just poo-pooed all this. He says, it's all bogus. And whatever it is, even if all the earth is ravaged by a nuclear holocaust, the preaching will increase. The preaching will increase. He wasn't in the least concerned. When they said, what will happen, Srila Prabhupada, what do we do if the bombs start dropping? He said, chant Hare Krishna. He said, chant Hare Krishna. This is 1975 when the threat of war between Pakistan and India was there. And each one backed by certain superpowers. So the threat of conflagration was somewhat real. And the devotees asked, Prabhupada, what do we do? Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna. The devotee is not afraid of death. Nehabikrama nasasti praktibhaya navidite swapamapyasti dharmasya jayate mahatobhaya. Little advancement saves one from the greatest fear. Just a little advancement. So many of our God brothers and God sisters have left their body, and every day more are leaving. And you see that those who have been in devotional service for some time, they're not in anxiety. My friend Rupa passed away very purposefully, if one can use that term. Very purposefully. The doctors gave him a certain amount of time. He says, why should I wait and prolong the situation any longer than necessary? He simply fasted. And within 7 days, just like Parikshit Maharaj, within 7 days. So, this is a symptom or a hallmark of devotees who are possessed of their Krishna conscious faculties, even at the time of death. They're not afraid. They know what their duty is. They know what their relationship is. And they're not afraid. And so at this point, also, Krishna is telling Arjuna, and we can read this again, all these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O Senapata. That is my final opinion. And it's difficult to follow one's duty if one is fearful. If he doesn't know what is what. He has to hear from his seniors, God brothers, God sisters, who have already walked the path and have experienced everything that he may experience up to that point. And they're more than willing to give counsel and advice that such things will pass as long as one remains fixed firmly at the lotus feet of the spiritual master Krishna. And this is not if it's a secret, it's an open secret. But the techniques, how one does that, by engaging in sincere devotional service. And Prabhupada gave another example in that regard. He used Prahlad Maharaj in that instance after the death of his father. Hiranyakashipu lying on the lap of Nrsingadev, Lord Nrsingadev covered with blood. Lord Nrsingadev was a fearsome murti, so huge. We see things in perspective, fitting on a small canvas painting. If anyone has seen a painting by Jadharani, it is only maybe 23 by 33 inches. It's a very small painting, filled with such detail, though. Filled with such detail. And so no one could go forward, not Lord Brahma, not Lord Shiva, not Lakshmi. Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, always situated at the lotus feet of the Lord. She could not go forward because she also had never seen such a form of the Lord, and so therefore she had a doubt. Is this my husband? Because she's such a chaste lady, she can't go. With such a doubt, she can't approach. So then Lord Brahma, you see, he gives the garland to Prahlad Maharaj and he pushes him forward. You go forward, my dear son. No one else could go. Big demigods, Lord Shiva, they couldn't go. So fearsome form, Lord Nrsingadeva. Then Prabhupada said, it is not by seniority, it is by sincerity. So Prahlad Maharaj was sincere, purely sincere, the emblem of sincerity. Pure devotee, even in the womb of his mother. And so he had no hesitation. He said, yes, this is my Lord. Immediately, Lakshmi could not see, but Prahlad Maharaj could see. Sincerity. So we have to strive for this. It's not something that just comes automatically. You have to be willing to work through your anarthas. You have to sarvapadi vinyamuktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikesha rishikena. This goes back to that pot washing. Rishikesha rishikena sevanam bhakti uchite. One has to engage his senses. And there's whatever service you can do which can engage most of your senses, then that is a good service. If some of your senses are engaged, but your mind is not engaged, and the mind is still telling you all nonsense, then that service is not the best service. You have to be able to fix every sense, the mind and the senses. The mind is the seat of the senses. Everything has to be engaged simultaneously. Just like chanting japa. You see that some devotees chant japa and they chant their rounds very nicely. They're very fixed. And you can tell they're hearing the holy name, every syllable. And some devotees are nervous, and they're looking around, they're glancing at their phone. So many things going on. So they won't have the same benefit. Because all their senses are engaged. Why we're touching the beads? Why not just chant without the beads? Because this is engaging the tactile sense, the sense of touch. It's engaging. It helps us to concentrate. We're very fortunate to be in this Krishna consciousness movement, in this holy place of Sri Vrindavan Dham, in this Prabhupada's home. Such a special place, Prabhupada's home. Who can imagine? He resides here eternally. He resides here eternally. When we built the Samadhi, National Geographic came by to interview us one day. And they were pretty amazed. They're thinking, who are these bunch of misfit Westerners in India trying to build this huge marble mausoleum? And they could see all the workmen chipping the marble, the same tools that they used for thousands of years. Everyone has seen, maybe you're familiar with the Masana. Everyone know Masons, the Society of Masons? It's not really a secret society, but something like that. The Masonic order, said to be descended from another order of knights. Supposedly the same people who built the pyramids. The pyramids are a marvel of engineering. To this day, people are amazed how it could be done. They didn't have cranes, so to speak. They didn't have power tools. They didn't have CAD/CAM. They didn't have computers. They had nothing. What they had was a square, a plumb bob, and a compass. And with these three things, you can build anything. Anything. But people don't know. If you don't know the science, you don't know it. Square, plumb bob, and a compass. Anything can be built. And that's what we used to build Prabhupada's Samadhi. Every day I would watch these men employ these tools, just like that. And so he's looking at this, group of, ragtag mysteries sitting on their haunches, chipping at the stone. And he said, and he asked, he said, this is very nice. And you can read the article, it's May 1990. You can find it in the archives of National Geographic, May of 1990. So we told them very confidently, said if you come back in 1,000 years, it'll still be here. Because we're very optimistic. Reinforced concrete is not very stable. It deteriorates rapidly. But the devotees who built this, Prabhupada's early disciples, they took every possible precaution to make it right. And so we just did a structural analysis by a very reputable company and a bunch of student engineers. And they did, in order to stress test concrete, use rebound hammers, special tests to determine the density and the integrity. And so the maximum you can get for brand new, just cured, properly aged cement is around 4.5 to 5. That's the highest. It's only a scale of 5. So this was done 1979 was when we did the concrete. So how many years ago is that now? 2019? 40 years? So we're between 3.5 and 4. So a small margin of deterioration. And we can do some remedial work to preserve it further. And that's what they're doing now. We just walked around again. So you should find a service. The Karmis have a saying. It says, if you do what you like, you'll never work a day in your life. Everyone understand? If you do what you like, you'll never work a day in your life. You have to do what you like. You have to find that service where you can fully engage yourself. Don't take too long. Don't wait 10 years. All this service is available right now. Everything is there. You have to jump in it and try it. There's no loss. Remember, Nahabhikrama Nasasti. No loss or diminution. A little advancement saves one from the greatest fear. So much service. I mean, just look around. Book distribution, prasadam distribution, college preaching, harinam, 24-hour kirtan. Construction. Some people like management. Some people like to push paper and pencil. That's okay. But do it for Krishna. And do it perfectly. And do it perfectly. And then you'll see the time passes like this. I walked into the temple in 1972. It seems like yesterday. Right, Manaji? Doesn't it? Seems like yesterday? So we can either make the time go slow or make it go fast. Your choice. And I choose fast. Life is short. Don't waste it. Huh? Prabhupada said, what was that aphorism? Minimum words, maximum effect. Minimum words, maximum effect. So it's the same with devotional service. In the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna also tells Arjuna, what does he say? Heroes don't talk much. You see sometimes people talk. But they don't do anything. They just talk. And Krishna said, heroes don't talk much. They do. Last night we did a college preaching program, and the Madhavas were there. And it's a little loud for us old people. But one of the things they were saying at the end, and everybody, there was thousands of students, and they were all dancing and chanting and all absorbed. Krishna is a superhero. That was the last, whatever they call, encore. As everyone is sort of filtering out. Krishna is a superhero. Because everyone's looking for a superhero. Everyone admires a superhero. They're making millions of dollars on superheroes in the movies. Because people want a superhero. But we all know that the only real superhero is Krishna. We just have to tell people about him. They don't know. They don't know Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill. as a young child, or even as a baby, killing Trinavarta and Putana and Shakatasura and all these pastimes. Krishna's a superhero. You read Krishna book. Big, I was very surprised one time. When I was living here, there was one sadhu we used to preach to, associate with, kind of like both. You have to be careful not to take their association. You have to be giving something. And he had one temple called the Jaipur Mandir. And we're very well known. And people would come and see him. One man came and saw him one time, and then he saw me there as dressed like a devotee. And he was a very big man. He was either a IG, DIG, something big. And in the old days, everybody carried briefcases. It was just a kind of a fashion accessory. Or even our life membership men. Everyone used to walk around with a briefcase and a Fairchild projector, and we used to do these. And he popped open his briefcase, and he pulled out this small blue paperback Krishna book. And he said, I read this every day. Every day. Coach Prabhupada's words, Krishna book was magic. Anyone who reads Krishna book becomes a devotee. So we used to distribute profusely. In New York Temple, we hold the record. And one night, we distributed 10,000 Krishna books. 10,000. Christmas marathon. Rockefeller Center. Because some people were collecting donations and some people were giving out the books. It was a little bit of a give and take. You can't just approach every person, get a donation and give a book. So our better collectors were collecting. And then anybody could distribute the book. And we were having a good time. We were dressed up as Santa Claus. Everybody know who Santa Claus is? Saint Nick? You know Santa Claus, right? Everybody knows. So people always take something from Santa Claus. Here's a Christmas present for you. 10,000 books. One night. So anyway, one night, 2 nights, whatever it was. Might have been Christmas Eve and then Christmas Day. But it was very big. So you can have lots of fun, lots of memories. You have to make these Krishna conscious memories. You have to bond with your God brothers and God sisters. You have to work hard together, struggle together, and form these relationships that will last for 40 plus years. We see each other when we come to Vrindavan. We don't see each other for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, sometimes 30 years. But we remember, oh yeah, on the Sankirtan van, traveling out here in the middle of nowhere. You remember those times. How Krishna conscious you were because you had no choice. Any questions? Shall I read the translation again? All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pratha. That is my final opinion.
Glorifying Chairman Prabhu, he was very sincere and he has done so many things. I appreciate everything that.
Very sincere.
Still, we appreciate that Prabhupada's each and every disciple. They have sincerely served Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said that you devotees are serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So he was very much satisfied with everyone. And everybody, we see now how the expansion is done because of all the sincerity of the devotees.
Somehow or other, Jayananda, that benefit of that association came by his arrangement. And so if you make yourself useful What's that? Nimitta matram bhava savyasachim. That doesn't just apply for Krishna. Just become an instrument. So if someone has a talent that can be utilized in Krishna's service, and the society can use it, then he should make himself available. If he's an engineer, maybe he doesn't even like engineering. Maybe he hated it. Maybe he did it just because his parents wanted him to do it. But now he has that knowledge, that qualification. So now he should use it in Krishna's service, because and now he becomes an instrument. It was Krishna's arrangement. He shouldn't think, no, I want to be something else. That's okay. You can be something else. But can you be as useful to the society doing something else as you could be as an engineer? Because that is the criteria. It is not what I want. It is doing the needful. What benefits the society? What benefits Prabhupada's mission? So we have to think along those lines. So I wasn't a very qualified person, but I knew Jayananda, and he knew that I was born and raised in New York, and I knew the city like the back of my hand. And he needed someone. He's from San Francisco. He's actually from the Midwest, but he joined the temple in San Francisco. So he needed someone who knew New York. So therefore I was a useful instrument to drive him around and do whatever needed to be done to get things to construct the Rath Yatra carts. So, I could have said, no, I don't like driving anymore. I'm done. What I would have missed. So many months of association with such a pure devotee of Srila Prabhupada. Without hesitation, I can say that. He was such a devotee of Prabhupada and Lord Jagannath. Literally, he would do anything. Anything. One time at the Rath Yatra site, one devotee was complaining that he didn't get enough prasadam. It was hard work. And they stayed at the Rath site, so the prasadam was brought to them. And this devotee, somehow or other, he wasn't there at the time the prasadam was served, so he got something less. And it's hard work. And so he was complaining. And I happened to be there because I bring the prasadam, and then I go and I take the trays back. So this devotee was a little short-tempered person. But Jayananda used to utilize such persons. He knew how to get the best out of them. This person was an expert carpenter, but very difficult to deal with. Do we know devotees like that? Who have some expertise, but they're difficult to deal with? So you need a person like Jayananda, who embodies such sincerity that they know that this person is not exploiting me. So he's complaining to Jayananda. I doubt even Jayananda got enough prasadam, because he would not take till everyone else had eaten. So if this person had not eaten, that means Jayananda had not eaten. So Jayananda was sitting up on top. This place was like a loading dock. It had an area where the trains had tracks, and the cars would roll in, rolling stock, and there'd be a platform. And so the doors would open and they would unload things. So he was standing on the platform where they used to unload. It's no longer in use. And we were down on the lower level where the tracks were. And so this devotee is just complaining. I'm thinking, and Jayananda just listening, not saying anything, not arguing. And in his hand is a can of axle grease, because we were putting the wheels on the carts. Anyone know what axle grease is? Axle grease? It's what you put on the axle of a car. You squeeze it into the bearings. I can see there's not a lot of mechanics in here. Anyway, so he had a can of axle grease, which is very thick. And it's a petroleum product. And you use it to smear on the axle, and then the wheel spins freely. So he took his hands like this, 3-4 fingers, and he pulled out a scoop, like he would take prasadam out of a container. And he said, here, to this complaining devotee, take Jagannath Prasad. And the devotee, he recoiled and he thought, now you're making fun of me. But Jayananda just he wanted to show him how ridiculous he was behaving. Like a child, not like a man. And then he took, when he didn't take it, he put all 4 fingers of the grease in his mouth. All 4 fingers of that grease, and swallowed it. Of course, he already knew he was dying from cancer, but that's besides the point. Just to make a point. So I don't think anyone has matched that yet. Any other questions?
All glories to you that you have saved the New York temple also.
I'm not saving anything. Radha Govinda are saving everything. They're saving us. We're just the pot washers. Anybody can come and wash the pots. That's all. Wash the pots, wash. There's so much service. Every temple has so much service. And Prabhupada wanted all these temples to be spotlessly clean. Not that someone comes in and sees, why is the temple dirty? It should not be dirty. Then it reflects poorly on Srila Prabhupada, and it reflects poorly on us. Any other questions? Who? Do you need the microphone? Pass it along.
Thank you for the class. Nowadays, some temples, they pay workers to do the cleaning and cooking. What was Prabhupada's basic opinion?
Prabhupada, that we clean the temple. It's a famous letter to one of the leaders of one of our big temples in India. The temple was not properly cleaned in time for guests to come. And Prabhupada asked the reason why, and they said, well, probably because the devotees are still chanting their japa. They don't finish till this time. So Prabhupada said, this cleaning is japa. He said, what is the use of their japa? He said, they have to clean. They can chant japa later, but cleaning is now. So if the temple needed to be cleaned, all the devotees cleaned. We used to, before going on Sankirtan, every day we would clean the temple. And then once a week we would have a maha cleanup. Things which would not get ordinarily done. You know, because you clean the basics, the floors, the stairs, but not every day the walls, or the banisters, or something, the baseboards. Then you do the maha cleanup. But every day before going on Sankirtan, all the basics were done. Nothing undone. Any other questions, comments, corrections? Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jayananda Prabhu ki.